Hello, and welcome to the May 2021 installment of the show where I talk about music. It's kind of a podcasty thing, but it's also just, well, it is a podcast. This one's going to be a quick one because I'm busy with other things at the moment, which is a shame because I thought there was some really great music that came out this month. Stuff that I'm excited to check out that I haven't had the time to sit down and listen to yet. But regardless, here's what stuck out to me this month. First off, St. Vincent's new album, Daddy's Home. My God, I was blown away by this. This is the most I've enjoyed a St. Vincent album as I've heard the material as it's coming out. The songs on here call back very specifically to the 70s, and it's not just one particular artist or one particular sound. Different strokes of psychedelic rock, of funk, of soul, of singer-songwriter music from the era. It feels like each song doesn't necessarily stay on a particular style. It merges and coalesces several different artists. Clear influences being Pink Floyd and some of the more psychedelic washes of the album, Stevie Wonder and some of the more funky keyboard and synth passages, all aiding St. Vincent in sort of establishing and talking about this conflict that she seems to have been experiencing. My personal favorite moments on this album come from the song My Baby Wants a Baby, a song that interpolates the vocal line from Sheena Easton's 9 to 5. My baby takes the morning train. A song about love and romance being tied to one's work life that is kind of celebratory of that. St. Vincent interpolates it to be kind of the opposite, how she struggles to be a committed partner while living this life of showbiz that she has, wanting to commit herself to both her art and her relationship and just finding that there isn't enough energy within her to do that, which is great because I always thought there was some sort of underlying eeriness to that Sheena Easton melody, and her slowing the tempo down and really giving this brooding and kind of softly anguished vocal performance with it unlocks a potential in that melody that I think she executes on perfectly. And the following song, At the Holiday Party, is one of the most beautiful things I've heard all year. Just the timeliness of its concept itself being at the holiday party, sort of this grand reunion. The song is, I'm not necessarily sure if it's about herself or if it's about somebody else that she perceives, but it's about somebody who's lost their ambition in the world of art and entertainment, somebody who has lost their sense of glory in that world and is now kind of softly spiraling out in this drug-fueled depression, but trying to keep up appearances as if they're okay. St. Vincent singing from the part of somebody who knows that person and can kind of see right through this mask they've made for themselves. And while I said different shades of artists can come and go throughout the album, St. Vincent's vocal performance here is so unambiguously Joni Mitchell. She is very much wearing that in the melodies she is singing and the way she is singing them, which is great. Joni Mitchell deserves as much respect as she can get, and St. Vincent wearing her voice like that brings a lot of tenderness that the song really uses to its advantage. And that tenderness kind of gets used to display the theme of the song, that there are always people who care about you no matter how bad things get inside your own head. And these sort of New York soul breakdown at the end with these horns coming in and her repeatedly singing, "You can't hide from me." It's just beautiful. This is no doubt one of my favorite albums that have come out so far this year, even though I think it kind of ends quickly and not necessarily in the most fulfilling way, but all of the songs here are really well done. I highly recommend you listen to it. UK art rock, post-rock, just dark, heavy rock outfit Black Midi released their sophomore album, Cavalcade. As you might be able to tell from the cover, it is messy, it is electric, it is invigorating. The song concepts on here are wacky and wild and ultra-specific reflections on just strange ideas and metaphors, like the opening song John L., which is softly about fascism, or at least the politics of a cult of personality, being about this figure John L. coming to a town and all hell breaking loose, to the closing song Ascending Forth, which is about this songwriter who finds themselves in a situation where they are perpetually stuck writing the same interval progression, ascending a fourth over and over and over and over again, to the point where they have this Pink Floyd type trial where they're put in court for constantly writing ascending fourths. This album is nerdy and dense and musically just electric. Morgan Simpson, the drummer of Black Midi, continues to be just one of my favorite drummers currently working, and the way the group blends together jazz, post-rock. If you have not listened to Black Midi and on the whole enjoy experimental rock, yeah, I would say that this is an album that you definitely need to check out. And I also want to talk about the new Olivia Rodrigo album for a bit, because that was easily the biggest album to come out this month. Olivia Rodrigo, of course, exploded onto the charts with the Driver's License single she released back in February, very quickly lining up this album for its release only a few months later. There are aspects of it that I really enjoy. I think Olivia's vocal performance throughout the whole thing is very good, and I think some of her commentary on social media in regards to her emotional state is very well put together and something I haven't really seen in pop music before. I just think this album has a huge pacing issue, lining up back to back to back to back to back to back to back 7 breakup songs in a row, which I get was a selling point to Olivia's success. And the way she writes about her emotional state is pretty raw and can be relatable to somebody who has gone through or is currently going through a messy breakup. However, with the sheer amount of breakup tracks, I don't necessarily feel as if the development of the narrative or the themes that Olivia goes into really necessitate as much focus being compiled into one part of the album. I feel like these songs rely more on their emotional potency, and that isn't something that really gets developed when they're all clumped together like this. Like, this is Olivia's debut album. This is the first I'm really hearing herself be more fleshed out. And she really kind of pigeonholes herself into this one topic. And that's something that I think works against the idea of the debut album in general. As I walk away from those 7 songs feeling more like I know about the intricacies of Olivia's past relationship than Olivia herself. And that's something that does get developed slightly on other parts of the album. I do like the song Jealousy, Jealousy, where she goes into her feelings about social media and feeling inadequate when everybody else is just posting their best lives on their feed constantly for you to see. Feeling like you don't live up to certain standards that are being set by other people. Again, that isn't something I've really heard a lot of pop music about. And there are similar strands of that running through the song Brutal. I do like a lot of this album when Olivia is writing about broader concepts, stuff that I guess is more easy for me to relate to, and that kind of comes to the problem at the end of the day with this album, is like, you know, this isn't meant for me. Hello, teenage girls going through breakups. I see that you're enjoying this album, but have you considered my opinions as a 22-year-old man who listens to jam bands from the 70s? I'm not sure you have. You know, I do kind of think about how much I really dug Deja Vu as a single, and leading up to the release of this album, like, what I was expecting from it. I guess I just didn't expect over a third of the runtime to be reserved to one topic. And again, I don't necessarily think that that completely tanks the album experience for me. Olivia's vocal performances are steadily pretty great. I think she's a very talented vocalist and a pretty talented lyricist too. I like the emotional vulnerability she projects on songs like Driver's License and Good For You, of course. But all of those clumped together with the slower ballads just make the first 2/3 of this album kind of a slog, where I end up having to skip 2 or 3 songs to even make it through. I guess going forward, I just don't want Olivia to remain the pop star who writes breakup songs for teenage girls, because I think she has a lot more depth as an artist. I do think she has a talent for short, pithy lyricism that has the ability to stick in people's minds. That's what I want to see in the future of Olivia Rodrigo. I think this was a fine enough debut, even if I didn't really feel like I got enough of a grasp on the artist at hand. And I'm willing to say at the end of the day that, you know, this isn't an album intended for me. Is that all that I have to talk about today? That's all I planned for, like, the album review portion of this. Let's see what else is on the playlist. This was a good playlist. I'm upset that I don't have the time to talk about more than just that. Oh yeah, Parallelograms by Linda Perhacs. That's a pretty great psychedelic folk album from the 70s. Perhacs, am I pronouncing that right? Linda has a pretty great voice and kind of harmonizes and pairs it with herself pretty well. You know, it's very soothing, very calm psychedelia. The melodies are pretty flowing and pretty loose. It's mostly just her and a guitar, and it's pretty intimate and warm. Fucking Talk Talk. I forget which day in the month it was, but there was a day where I just listened to Talk Talk's Spirit of Eden twice in a row. I don't know. You feel a bit down sometimes. I mean, Talk Talk has now made it into the past 3 of these videos just off of these 2 albums, Spirit of Eden and Laughingstock. Although I have also been listening to Mark Hollis's solo album, which is much of the same, but it is more stripped back. I don't know what it is. I can't help it. I just hear Mark Hollis go, and I'm just like, so true, bestie. Oh yeah, Butterfly Knife by Food House. That's a banger. It's like emo hyperpop, which isn't necessarily, you know, completely like 2 genres are way separate from one another. It's just something that I haven't seen Food House do before, and you know, it's pretty cool how they can do something so emotionally raw, but at the same time just kind of have it be a shit post. Like there's a line on here about like, oh, I wrote the worst song ever and it's all about you, and if you listen to it you'll know my inner feelings. And it's kind of like they're ironically beating up on themselves but at the same time expressing genuine emotion. It's a banger. I don't know, what else can I do? I don't know, let me see what the kids are up to these days. Let's go to BuzzFeed. Olivia Rodrigo. Do people even still use BuzzFeed anymore? Okay, there's a solid amount of Olivia Rodrigo content on here, so I assume I'm in the right place for what the hot goss is. 57 hilariously accurate fan reactions to Olivia Rodrigo. 57. Dare I say, that might be too much. All right, yeah, this is what I was looking for. Which song from Olivia Rodrigo's Sour are you? What's one word you would use to describe yourself? Confident, kind, creative, forgiving, emotional, shy, outgoing, warm-hearted, honest, loyal. These are too many words. None of these. I wouldn't consider myself any of these. It's great that they gave the none of these option, just in case none of the 50 fucking words they gave applied to you. None of these. I'm not any of these. Choose a color. Yellow, blue, gray, red, light blue, orange, purple, black, green, white. All of them are none of these. I'm just going to answer none of these for every question. What's your zodiac sign? Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. None of these. Oh, there isn't a none of these options. I guess this is all of them. Pick an artist. Khalid, Taylor Swift, Doja Cat, Billie Eilish, SZA, Olivia Rodrigo. What song do I get if I pick Olivia Rodrigo? None of these. None of these is still at the bottom of this. None of these people. I detest all of them, including Olivia Rodrigo. I don't relate to her at all. I don't know why I'm on this quiz page. Nah, I'm gonna pick Olivia Rodrigo. What's your favorite lyric of the album? None of these. Still riding strong. I'm gonna pick that line from Deja Vu. I hate to think that I was just your type, just because, I don't know, I feel like that's a pretty strong lyric for, you know, that type of first breakup, young love being destroyed, and having to define large aspects of your personality by what another person wanted from you. What's one of your flaws? Too forgiving, materialistic, rebellious, selfish, unrealistic, defensive. I don't have any flaws, baby! Hope You're Okay. Oh, that's the song she did about, yeah, essentially Mountain Goats, You Were Cool, but like queer coded a bit. Yeah, you know what? That is one of the songs I like more on the album. I think there is some emotional vulnerability and some commentary on current, you know, identity politics that Olivia sort of isn't necessarily, you know, like depthful or dropping truth bombs, but it is pretty emotionally vulnerable, essentially paying respects to queer people who she understands have gone through problems that she isn't even privy to herself. with their sexuality, with their history and relationships, with the idea of love, and projecting a bit of vulnerability in that. I think that, it can be a relatable sentiment to a lot of teens growing up who aren't necessarily queer, but see that discourse happening around them and have mostly stayed quiet about it. I think this is a pretty tasteful and pretty endearing final track to the album. That's what I got for being a Cancer, picking Olivia Rodrigo in the quiz about Olivia Rodrigo, and picking that one line from Deja Vu, and then nothing else for the rest of the quiz. I got Hope You're Okay. What do I say? This quiz just knows me. Okay, that's where I'm wrapping this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video and you want to see more of me talk about music, like the video, subscribe, talk about what albums or what releases you were listening to down in the comments. I probably missed a bunch. I did miss a bunch. I wasn't too attentive to music this month. Go check out the playlists and the links to everything I talked about in the description below. And enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Alex Mitro, and you've been listening to 93.5 Friendship Station. Peace out, DILFs.